Okay. Let's see. It's 5:33. I think the four of us are all that we're going to see in attendance tonight. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Pulapati.
Here.
Councilmember Gatewood is absent at this time. Councilmember Sander.
Here.
Vice Mayor Budge.
Here.
Mayor Terry.
Here. Hang on for 1 second. Just want to take a note on something. Thank you, Cyrus, for that. Whoops. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to print this before I left, and I'm in a hotel tonight. Next, we'll have the Metro Cable Television announcement, and I'll ask the city clerk to read that, please.
The meeting of the Rancho Cordova City Council will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed captioned and webcast at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting will air on Wednesday, August 17th at 12 p.m. and Thursday, August 18th at 9 a.m. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/Metro Cable 14. A DVD copy can also be ordered from the City Clerk's Department, and a webcast of this meeting will also be available on the city's website within 48 hours of adjournment of this meeting.
Thank you, Stacy. Well, that will move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Followed by that, we will have our invocation tonight, which will be presented to us by Elizabeth Brick with the United Methodist Church of Rancho Cordova. Because I can't really see the audience, I'm going to just ask our city manager to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if he would. And then again, we would ask you to remain standing for our invocation. And we do have Elizabeth here. Great.
Please join me in reciting the pledge.
Thank you. Go ahead, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Please join me in the spirit of prayer. Gracious God, thank you for your presence tonight. Thank you for the gift of service to our community and for all who give their lives to the community of Rancho Cordova. We pray especially giving thanks for each member of the City Council tonight and all who serve the City Council, the many staff members who do this work. We pray that all who are gathered here tonight will have ears open for listening. May they have minds open to hear new ideas, and may their hearts be open to serving every person who lives in Rancho Cordova. We pray for families and children. We pray for our elders. We pray for those who are serving the community in the armed forces and the police. We pray for our firefighters. We pray for all who are present and accounted for and doing this work. So today we know that you are calling us to reach out also for those who are the last and the least and the lost, as we like to say in church. And we pray for them too, especially as this heat overtakes us. Gracious God, we pray for safety and security for each and every person. And so we thank you for blessing us with your love and care tonight, and for blessing us with one another. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Lovely.
Thanks
Thank you,
for the
Elizabeth.
opportunity.
You did hit on the heat for sure.
Take care.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to presentations. And tonight we have the introduction of new employees, and we'll have Brittany Mariscal from Code. I don't know if she's in the room or on. Oh, I'm guessing that's her coming to the dais. Great.
Staff, my name is Brittany Mariscal. I am the Code Enforcement Supervisor for Neighborhood Services, and I'm here tonight to introduce two members that are joining our Neighborhood Services team. First is Matt Spieth. He has been with us for about 3 weeks, and he is backfilling a previously vacated position and will be assigned to the General Nuisance team.
Hi, good evening.
Mayor Terry, council members, staff. Just wanted to thank you for having me here today. I come from the city of Sacramento, where I was a code enforcement officer for just under 3 years. During my time there, I gained so much valuable experience that I look forward to bringing with me here to the city of Rancho Cordova, including understanding the importance of patience and really taking the time to recognize the problems that our community members face and trying to come up with solutions to solve those problems. I just wanted to close by thanking everyone in my department, Neighborhood Services, especially, as well as every other city employee that I've met thus far, for all the support, the warm welcomes, and the generous food baskets that I find in every room throughout the city. So thank you so much.
Welcome, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. So next we have Ryan Brown. Ryan started with us about 3 weeks ago as well and is filling a previously vacated position and will also be assigned to the general nuisance team.
Good evening, Mayor Terry, council members, and staff. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited. For the last 4 years, I've been working here in Rancho as a contractor, working in coordination with code enforcement and Rancho PD as part of HOT. Our goal has been to address the homeless-related issues here in Rancho. I'm excited to be a part of the team here, excited to continue to work with the wonderful people that I work with here at Neighborhood Services, and just ready to get to work. Excited to be here.
Welcome, Ryan and Matt. I hope you guys don't have a lot of work here at Rancho and that we're a really good city.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Plenty of proactive activities for code enforcement. Thank you, and welcome to the team. With that, I believe I'm going to call up Brenda Roach from HR to cover some employee milestone anniversaries. And Brenda's in the room. There we go.
Good evening, Mayor Terry, council members, and staff. Brenda Roach with the Human Resources Department. So I am honored to share with you this evening that we have one employee who is reaching her 15-year milestone, Jessica Crone, standing next to me. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize Jessica for all of her contributions that she has made to the city. Jessica started her career at the city in 2007, working in the Neighborhood Services Division as a management technician, and most recently transitioned into our IT department for a promotional opportunity as a Management Analyst 1. While in Neighborhood Services, Jessica trained and mentored over 20 high school and college student interns. She coordinated multiple pet rabies vaccine clinics, hosted free notary day, and provided free notary services for the community, and also organized multiple neighborhood events such as Pizza with the Mayor and Growing Strong Neighborhood meetings. In Jessica's current role in the IT department, she has championed implementing our new customer portal, Rancho Cordova Online, and our new land management system, InterGov. So thank you, Jessica, for all that you do to make Rancho Cordova the best place to live, work, learn, and play. And now I would like to invite you to add some personal comments.
I would like to say thank you to my parents who showed up today, long-term Rancho Cordova residents, second generation. It's a blessing to have such a strong support system. And thank you to council for trusting and empowering staff, and our city manager, Cyrus. He does a great job of going above and beyond to make this a great place to work. My immediate manager, Kim Duran, her leadership style is awesome. To my coworkers, I'd like to thank them for constantly following through. There are times when we are all in the room together and we have a representative from each department, and I am blown away at how we work hard to collaborate and find ways to make things better for the community, always having the community lens in mind. And I brought this binder today. I hope you can see on Zoom how thick it is. It is full of thank you cards from residents, students, colleagues, certificates, newspaper articles of all of our collaborated efforts. And I show you this binder not to brag about the things I've accomplished, but I show you this binder to express that a lot of times we're only hearing about what government workers are doing wrong. And I'm here to tell you that there are several of us in the public sector, and especially in this organization, doing things right. I pledge to continue doing right by the community, and I will see you back here on milestone year 20.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
That's too cool.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I just wanted to make a
Please.
quick comment on that. I have had the pleasure of working with Jessica over the years that she has been with the city. She's had a very significant change of roles in the last few years, working and helping with our IT and the implementation of the new technology and the new systems that we have brought in. And she has done a tremendously great job working and collaborating with everybody throughout the organization to make this implementation a success. So thank you for the work you've done, and thank you for your service to this community, and we're so happy that you're part of our team. Thank you.
Thank you, Cyrus.
Thank you, and it's really great to see your parents there celebrating this with you. You know, you've been with the city a long time in a number of roles, and we really value the ability of our employees to do the sort of transitions you've done. So I'd say that's a sign of a healthy city staff, certainly, but also you're just exactly the sort of employee we want. So thank you for your good work.
You're here.
Ditto. Well, thank you for that. Let's move on to public comment. Citizens wishing to address the council for any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time via teleconference or by submitting and by completing and submitting a speaker card to the city clerk. If you want to make a public via teleconference, please use the raise hand feature at the bottom right, the bottom center of your screen. If you're on an Apple product like myself, it's in the top right. If you're participating by telephone and you want to make a public comment, please press *9 to raise your hand. For those participating by Zoom or telephone, please wait to be called upon by the city clerk. For items on the agenda, speakers will be called by the mayor at the point on the agenda when the item will be heard. Speakers are encouraged to keep their comments to 3 minutes or less and state the name and community of residence. Under the provisions of the California Government Code, the City Council is prohibited from discussing or taking immediate action on any item not on the agenda, unless it can be demonstrated to be of an emergency nature or the need to take immediate action arose after the posting of the agenda. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, I have received 5 speaker cards to date, and we're going to start with James Garcia. Following James will be Tara Kolvenbach. Following Tara will be Brenda Gustin. Following Brenda will be Helen Whalen Bashaw. No. Ada, I can't read that handwriting.
We just go with first names for
Okay.
now.
All right, let's start with James.
Go ahead, James.
Okay. Hi, I'm James Garcia. I'm a resident of Stone Creek. Been up here many a time. Just kind of wanted to come back and ask again if there's any more development on having like a meeting with the community and the developer of several projects in the Stone Creek area. There's one, the Lodge Center, as well as like the Stone Creek Industrial Complex. Just kind of curious if there's any groundwork on that, because we were kind of informed that there was going to be another one. So that we can kind of present some alternative ideas possibly, so they may even decide to not build those monstrosity warehouses. Another thing is possibility with Elliott Homes again, since they were at the last informational meeting, but there's still a lot of us that feel that it is been given like a bait and switch with our purchase of our homes in the Stone Creek area. We were misled quite a bit. Yes, there is disclosure information, but as you can imagine, reading thousands of lines of pages, it is a little misleading. We were informed that it was going to be wetlands behind us out where the Stone Creek Industrial Complex is proposed to be built. Again, just lots of things of that nature. If there's a way that we can have something put on with the developers instead of just them coming forward to the planning department saying, we want to build a warehouse. Again, that should not be built there. Yeah, that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just ask maybe when the city manager does his report, if he could also share, because I believe there was a community meeting held recently with what I thought was the developers. So I think we'd all be interested at some point to have a little bit more of a report on that. Next speaker, please.
Tara?
Hi, this is Tara Kulmbach. Thank you for having me, Mayor, City Manager, the rest of the council members. I really appreciate it. One is I just want to say for Jessica, she did great things for us in Whisker Warriors. She streamlined our whole operation and made it very less time intensive to do our voucher program. So I just want to put that in there. But why I really came is the leadership team, 13, came up with a plan of having street signs for in the new areas, honor those that are fallen, like our military, our city employees, like the police, fire, honored by having a street sign with their name on it. And I haven't heard, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe there's something that's already in the works. But if there isn't, and I just want to remind everybody that that was proposed by our leadership team, and perhaps we'd like to consider it in our city, since Elk Grove and Folsom both have it. So that's all I have. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Tara. Next speaker, please.
Brenda Guston. Following Brenda is Helen Whalen-Bashaw and Bob Collins.
And while Brenda's coming up, I just want to remind folks, if you're in Zoom and wanted to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. Go ahead, Brenda.
I have pictures of them.
Persephone.
You ready? Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm here to introduce what could become our welcoming view to Rancho Cordova on Folsom Boulevard. Kinder Morgan states that their project will have a less than significant impact on scenic vistas. Placing 22 rail cars with mostly recycled diesel, where the city of Rancho Cordova recently beautified the landscape, seems to be a move in the wrong direction. The proposed rail runaround does not go around. It is a single ingress and egress, basically a rail switching yard and storage facility on the railroad track alongside the city street, the length of 5 football fields. I request the city of Rancho Cordova deny this and request a new proposal. The rail system would be able to offload approximately 20,000 barrels per day of total product to include 1,250 BPD of biodiesel. This proposal is inconsistent with the urban design of the FBSP, which includes plans for a future light rail station at Horn Road and Folsom Boulevard, encouraging transit-oriented development. These plans align with the SACCOG and others to encourage light rail usage. Additional parking will be needed once the future light rail station is constructed, and the activity of loading and unloading these tankers will bifurcate the light rail station from residences, businesses, and the public library on the north side, and is inconsistent with the FBSP and regional transit objectives by encumbering the free flow of pedestrians, cyclists, and automobiles. One of the implicit goals of the FBSP is to increase commercial and retail uses in the area with the higher density of housing in the CASA's property opportunity side. Furthermore, the Kinder Morgan mitigated negative declaration does not address how many times these rail cars will cross the intersection at Horn Road, where the tanker cars will be moving at 10 miles per hour across a railroad intersection that is also the planned location of a future light rail station. Additional information and investigation is needed as the proposal does not state how many times these tanks will cross. Kinder Morgan did state that truck loading may take place up to 7 days per week and that 112 new truckloads per day will be added to Bradshaw Road for a total of 224 new truck trips per day. They do not describe the noise this generates. Federal regulations require locomotive horns be sounded for 15 to 20 seconds before entering all public grade crossings, which is 2 long, 1 short, and 1 long sounding horn, repeated as necessary until the locomotive clears the crossing. This preempts any state or local laws. These are not minor changes that can be mitigated. Therefore, a negative declaration for a CEQA is not acceptable for this proposal.
Please wrap up your comments.
A traffic study and/or noise study is needed to determine the impact of these tanker rail cars, as well as a report about toxic emissions from these rail cars.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I'm
Next speaker.
so glad that the county.
The next speaker is Helen Whalen Bashaw.
Hello, I'm Helen Whalen Bashaw. I live over off of Rod Beaudry. I have been watching the various presentations that are being made here at Rancho Cordova at the meeting. I do have some major complaints, and other people have chimed in on this throughout the time. I believe the city as a whole is doing the citizens injustice when you isolate a particular project. You aren't giving the true impact on this housing development, that storage unit, that warehouse, that grocery store, on what it's going to have the impact on the road structure we currently have. And for the city to say, no problem, in the future, we're going to improve the roads. We're going to put an overpass over the freeway. I don't buy that. And the reason I don't buy it is you're inconveniencing the citizens of Rancho Cordova and not allowing, you're inconveniencing them at the luxury to build out. Slow down once the infrastructure is in place to include law enforcement, fire department, any improvements that need to be made to the drainage systems. You have to have that in place first, because right now you're standing on a surplus. What happens in 10 years from now if you don't have the surplus? And you have put all these projects out to add to the public, you're going to have the same problem that you're having with the Elliott Home project. So I'm requesting the city of Rancho Cordova to be a little proactive and plan this out and present to the people projects that tell us everything around that is under construction, how the total impact will be to the street systems that are in place, and the delays that are going to be caused by the railroad tracks, the light rail, and especially if they add more cars going up to Folsom, that's going to impact not the Sunrise Boulevard, but it's going to impact the other areas greatly. So I would like somebody to do a little more planning, be a little proactive, and get more community involvement with work groups, because I think that you need to have them involved, because what I've seen here is some of your people in the planning department are making agreements and they don't even realize they're violating the own ordinances set by Rancho Cordova. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Bob Collins.
First time.
Bob, you'll have up to 3 minutes, and there's actually a timer right there on the podium if that's helpful to you.
Oh, okay. Well, that changed. Okay. Well, I've lived here a long time. I've worked in Sacramento for over 41 years with the Army Corps of Engineers as their chief hydrologist. And I noticed in one of your studies of filling in an area with homes that you're infringing on a floodplain and a parkway for natural habitat for animals. If you fill that in, you reduce the flood storage in the American River. I've done many studies on the American River. So you're increasing the flood risk. by filling that in and building all those houses. And things have changed over the years. The more houses you put in, the more runoff, because the water cannot go into the ground anymore. So you're increasing flood potential. And then, as the lady said, was it Brenda? I don't that you do have a toxic waste problem if you have flood in the area. You know, your storage containers for the diesel fuel and that at Bradshaw and Folsom Boulevard is also becomes a threat if you have high flood waters. So I think if you're going to have someone build there or something, they should do renewed hydrology and take a look at the increased flood potential of that area and of the area that has to be drained into the American River now, you know, because of additional homes being built or have been built. So that's basically all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Those are all the speaker cards I have. So now I'm going to be moving to Zoom. And we have a speaker with the telephone number of 916-804. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to speak.
Hello, go ahead. You have 3 minutes. You're unmuted. Please state your name.
Hi. Yeah, this is Fiza in Lincoln Village. In February of this year, I stood before all of you in City Hall, went to the mic, and asked for an anti-Black racism resolution. It was unanimously approved, and something I had asked for was to be included in the process of authoring this resolution and working with Black community advocates and community members who are Black to put it together. And after the approval, it never came to fruition. I had to do work sessions with myself and my peers away from city staff because we were not offered an opportunity to work as a team. We came up with a resolution and handed in to city staff. They rewrote our material and went to the NAACP to approve a bastardized version of what we had come up with. And then when I caught up with the NAACP and explained what was happening, that us locals and community advocates were being elbowed out of the process, she rescinded her approval of the bastardized version of the anti-Black racism resolution. I am still to this day waiting to hear back on whether or not these so-called work sessions with staff will pick up at any time. I have asked Cyrus, and he said he'd get back to me, but I feel like I'm being blown off. It is frustrating. I have community members trying to follow up with me and asking what the progress is on this, and I have zero information because I have been cut out of the process. I did go back to the mic months after and expressed my disappointment in what was going on and asked for this process to continue. But again, there has been no progress, and I would like an update. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see.
Mayor,
Stacey, I don't see more hands. Do you?
I do not see any additional hands.
Okay. With that, give me a sec to get back to where we are in the meeting. So that will move on to council reports. Tonight, we do not have Councilmember Gatewood. So Councilmember Pulapati, you'll be up first.
My report's going to be really light today. Well, I'd like to take the time to wish India has its 75th Independence Day, so a very happy Independence Day to India. And Stacey, is this new? I'm seeing like the metro view of the council chambers. Is that new? Or have I just not noticed it all this time?
It's new over the last couple of council meetings, yes.
Nice. Good. That's a technology update. And I know we'll be hearing more about that soon. I'll pass it on. That's all I have.
What do you mean by the metro view? What am I?
The metro cable view.
We have, Donald, we have two views. We have one specifically focused from the dais on the public podium, and then one from farther back in the room.
Oh, that council
Bias.
chamber one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the council
It's called
chamber.
council chamber. Okay.
So yeah, that I think that's the view that the public would view if they were calling in
Right.
the webinar. So now we have that view as well.
Yeah, I'm with Siri.
Although that's going to be a static view that we're staring at. That for Metro Cable, it'll switch to speakers if there were speakers in the room, right?
Yes, it's
No, we get to watch people walk up to the podium.
Right, I know, but I'm saying for Metro Cable, they have other camera angles that they'll switch to that we're not seeing. We're just seeing the static one from the top of the room.
Got it. Okay.
So it's not actually what you'd watch on TV. The one on TV is a little bit
Because
more.
earlier they had the sub caption and everything.
Yeah, okay. Because you can run that and it'll be about 10 seconds behind. With that, we'll move on to Councilmember Sanders' report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm also going to be pretty brief. In the last week, I've attended a lot of meetings with regard to various city functions. I'll just highlight a couple. I spoke to the Women in Municipal Government Conference that was happening last Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in Sacramento. They are an NLC group. It's women elected officials from all over the nation coming together for a nice little meeting. They were hosted here because Jan Arbuckle, local councilwoman, is the president of Women. It was somewhat unexpected that she would be president. It's one of those situations where like the president and the vice president both have to resign for one reason or another. And you go from being second vice president to president immediately. One of those great situations.
Yeah,
so she was the host. Yeah. She was the host in Sacramento, sort of surprise, and did a great job. They had a great meeting. I was honored to speak to them. We had a really important RCAA meeting last week. That's the Rancho Cordova Athletic Association. Dennis Lamontia's passing was honored with a funeral and a reception at City Hall, both of which were very well attended. And we have a number of leagues trying to sort of pick up the pieces that Dennis was operating for them. And we need to find, I think this is an opportunity in this crisis to find sort of the best way to move forward, maintaining his level of expertise in managing these organizations and not sort of crippling the organization in the process of them trying to find more talent or structure to hold themselves together. And so in talking to leagues, we found there's some real commonalities of need. One is some of the things RCA has already tackled, but even beyond those things we've done as a group, one is 501c3 status and maintaining that for nonprofits. These are youth sports leagues and sports organizations, and doing the paperwork necessary to maintain your 501c3, filing your Form 990s, that sort of thing is beyond what the normal league treasurer might undertake. And secondary to that was sort of that league accounting and treasurer function to begin with. There are a couple of leagues that are large enough, they hire basically professional bookkeepers to manage those affairs for them. The smaller ones do it on their own. And this, all across our region for generations has been a problem because you get the skilled treasurer, then you get the unskilled treasurer, then you might get fraud even happening in a youth league. And we have seen some of that in Rancho Cordova decades ago. It's a very unpleasant thing to happen in a community. And we haven't really come to a conclusion, but I think there has to be a way, maybe in the manner in which we handle the community council, where we lift up these nonprofits by taking on the things that they don't do well and empower them to do more of what they do well and what their mission is. So we're working on that. We're dealing with the loss of Dennis, which again, that's a major hit to the community. But I think all in all, people are looking at this positively. Had a great community council board meeting last week. A lot of exciting things happening there as we plan more and more events and support for our nonprofits in Rancho Cordova. And I think I will end my report with that. Thank you.
Thanks. Linda, you're up.
Well, my 2 weeks were way busier, seriously. Donald, you and I met with the County of Sacramento 2x2 with Supervisors Natoli and Desmond. We talked about the county's response to finding places to put housing for the homeless or more transitional housing. We talked about money that they're getting from the state and our desire to add new beds or new buildings to the Mather Community Campus. LAFCO met, the Local Agency Formation Commission, and Jose Henriquez, the executive director, and I talked to Micah. One of the directors at LAFCO is serving on the Herald Fire District Board, and they are very concerned, as is Sacramento County, about the Delta Tunnel. Regardless of the fact that the project's been downsized, it is still a huge concern to all water people. And we agreed that that LAFCO's actually being asked to take a position about the tunnels. And so the only way to do that was for the individual members at LAFCO, which includes Rancho Cordova, to think about whether we want to take a position or not. So Micah and Cyrus are going to put their heads together and see if we want to take any action on this. Next, I have to say, David, you and Garrett did a wonderful job at the celebration of life for Dennis Lamontia. It was very heartwarming. It was a wonderful turnout. Definitely an important thing. Going back to LAFCO, I would say that we met with, actually, I was the only one there. We met with Golden State Water Company, one of our 3 providers here in Rancho Cordova, and asked them specifically if they had taken, as a corporation, granted they are a private corporation, but have they taken any position on the Delta Tunnel? They said, no, they have not, and they are not going to, but they are definitely looking at the technical impacts of the tunnel on their entitlements in the American River and Folsom Lake. The other thing they talked about in terms of the drought and the state's current stage 2 requirement, while Golden State Water is in a stage 2 requirement, which everybody has received emails and mail in the snail mail. They are not establishing a penalty for going over your allocation. And everyone should remember that the allocation was 2 years ago in 2020. They have, quite frankly, here in this is the one time that here in Northern California, or at least in our region, there is not the issue of a lack of water, because the northern mountains, the northern Sierra, actually had a very good snowpack. So while Shasta and Oroville are very low on water, on the other hand, Folsom is very high. And so their water rights are not impacted by the drought right this minute. And then I met, today we had a meeting of what's called the Sac Metro Fire District Public Safety Foundation. It was something that's founded about 10 years ago. And I've actually been a director of that foundation. And we talked about mostly we talked about the fact that they're trying to restore an old fire station and another old fire engine in Rio Linda, similar to the restoration that was done for our Mills 1 station, fire truck years ago. But Rio Linda has been trying to do the same thing. And one of their directors, Matt Kelly, actually resigned and unfortunately has been diagnosed with ALS. And so they're trying to raise money for the ALS Foundation here in this region. If anybody is motivated to contribute to ALS in that regard. So I would then transition into a request that we adjourn tonight in memory of two different people. And one of them is Jed McClatchy. Jed is actually a great-great-grandson of the Bee founder. He is what is commonly today termed a Renaissance man. As a property manager, his office was here in Rancho Cordova for several years at the shopping center at Mather Field Road in Rockingham. But he did everything. He was a lawyer, property manager. He served on many, many boards and commissions, including the Los Rios Community College Foundation, the Boy Scouts, Weave, just a whole host of things. And he also, everything to the fact that he played the drums and the bagpipes in a Scottish bagpipe band. So Jed is sorely missed. And he had wonderful support from the Mercy Foundation here in Rancho Cordova. And then the other one is Jack Carlson and his late wife, Nikki, who passed in 2020. Jack was one of the founding members of our Moose Lodge and served in many roles in the Moose organization in this region, including being something like district governor for 3 times. And they were, as I said, they were total staples of the Moose Lodge here in Rancho Cordova. And the two of them are sorely missed. And in that regard, the Moose Lodge is having their annual rib cook-off this coming Saturday in the afternoon. And if anybody wants to attend and have great food, you can call the Moose Lodge and get tickets. That's my report.
Thank you, Linda. Well, I'll start too by saying that I'm sure we're going to miss Matt Kelly's leadership over at Metro Fire. I know he's been battling ALS for quite a while, and it's unfortunate that it's taken its toll to the point where he can't continue his public service. And we thank him for all he's done for a lot of people's political careers in this region as well, while he was the executive secretary of the building trades.
Absolutely.
So let's see, just a couple of things. I will say STA met last week, and this was our second review of the citizen initiative for the replacement measure A. I don't know what they're going to call it, A plus or who knows. But we did have a final vote on, I guess, compromise language between the two factions discussing the David, you may have a better way of describing this, but I would just say the disagreement or divergent views on the Capitol East connector and how they may meld the two together. And so I think they came up with some compromise language, and it looks like that will be on the ballot this fall. There was a meeting this past Friday with the Sacramento Homeless Policy Council. This is, I believe, the third meeting of that body that I represent the city on. The conversation was really productive. I will say that we didn't get very far into the weeds on this, on the county and cities kind of dueling ballot initiatives that they're looking at around homelessness and accountability and shelter beds and whatnot. It was mainly focused on the collective focus of the region, the different cities, and what they're trying to do to address the issue, and then kind of best practices and other things that we might do around funding and coordinated entry support. I don't think we've met since National Night Out, so I'll just thank staff and those that attended and hosted a National Night Out event. I believe there were 6 or 7 in the city. Pre-pandemic, we would have upwards of 25 or 30. But it takes a while to kind of regroup. I know we had a lot of folks that used to host those events that would probably be considered to have underlying conditions, or just because of their age would be considered to have underlying conditions for COVID and other things. So I understand that, it was a little more sparse this year, but it was a nice event. I will say it's a little unfortunate. I believe it was on a Tuesday, and the day before, I believe the high was 81, and the day we went out, it was 102. And so it was a warm day, but it was nice to see neighbors out and mingling, especially after all of the months that we've been kind of cooped up. I especially want to thank the chamber for hosting the elected reception over at the Marriott. It was well attended, and kudos to them for recognizing the service of Supervisor Natoli and Senator Nielsen as they both look towards retirement. I think, Linda, you covered pretty much what we talked about around the 2x2 with the county. There was discussions around the Mather community campus, and some talk around what the county's plans were around homeless services. And I'll just be frank, at this point, it seems like we're very much in the same view as to what could go or might go into the community campus and into Mather in general. I know there has been some concern that there may be some other programming or services offered there that may detract from what's been there for the last 15, 20 years. And I don't really see the county having any intention of doing something that would take away from the success that we've seen of the community campus.
And I would agree with that, Donald. The community was incredibly deeply concerned about that originally, and it's been award-winning ever since.
Yeah, and I think in the short run, in the last few months, the county's looked at a lot of different scenarios and ways that they could address homelessness. And I know Mather has come up as one of those sites that they may do other things at. But the conversation that we had, it seemed very reassuring that certain programs that we may have had concern being there and in such close proximity to transitional housing and family housing and emancipated foster youth, that there may be other programming that could go there that wouldn't necessarily complement what's there. That's probably it. I got the adjournments, so we'll get to those when we get to the end. With that, I'll turn it over to the city manager for his report.
Thank you, Mr. May. I'll also be very brief. I think everything has been mentioned. I just wanted to follow up on your comment related to the National Night Out. We did have very good support and attendance from both our city staff and as well as RCPD. And we also have on tape where at one of these gatherings, Councilmember Gatewood participate in a song, so we have it on tape in case if anybody's interested to see it.
Yeah, that was fun. In case you don't know, Garrett did some karaoke at one of those National Night Out events.
Yeah, it was a
you all
fun
should
event.
check it.
Well attended.
We got to highlight that when he's not here.
Absolutely. So a couple other things I just wanted to point out, that this Friday we have the Cordova Community Council and the Chamber of Commerce luncheon, and our guest speaker is the Superintendent of Schools, Sarah Collegian, Folsom Cordova's superintendent. Hope that we could see as many of our residents as possible as she talks about the future of our school districts and some of the work and the projects that they have underway. I would also like to very quickly address a public comment that was made related to meetings, developers meeting with on Stone Creek warehouses. I think the public meeting was held, and we have requested that a follow-up, another meeting to be held. And it is our understanding that they are following through and that they're planning and organizing a time and a date for another meeting with the community. And lastly, what I wanted to say is that, as you all have heard, it's going to be a very hot week with temperatures over 100 degrees. And we will be opening our cooling center here at the City Hall. So this will be happening just about, I think, every day this week. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. With that, oops. With that, we'll move on to item 9, consent calendar items. Consent calendar items consist of matters deemed routine and non-controversial by staff. Unless a member of the council wishes to pull an item for individual consideration, all items will be approved by one motion. Let's start with, do we have any public comment on anything on the calendar?
Yes, we have public comment so far for item 9.3 on the consent calendar.
So we'll pull 9.3. Colleagues, anything else that needs to be pulled from the calendar?
Hearing none, I'll move approval of 9.1 and 9.2.
Second.
I have a motion by Budge, a second by Pulapati. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Pulapati?
Yes.
Councilmember Gatewood is absent. Councilmember Sander?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Budge?
Yes.
Mayor Terry?
Aye. Okay, let's go ahead and take 9.3 and we'll take that public comment.
So we have 2 public comment cards and 1 public comment that has been submitted via email. First, I'd like to call forward David Militzer. Following David Militzer will be Helen Wayland Bashaw.
And Stacey, did you say that you had a public comment to read by email?
I do, not necessarily to read by email, but Brenda Gustin submitted a public comment via email that has been distributed to the city council. It's been printed for the public in the back of the room, and it is also being placed on our website.
Brenda's in the room as well, right?
Brenda is in the room, yes.
And if she'd like to submit a speaker card, she can. Go ahead, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. David Militzer. I a proud recent arrival here in Rancho Cordova as a resident, but I've lived for 30 plus years in the greater Sacramento area, mostly in the Fair Oaks, So I'm pretty familiar with the environs. My concern about the 9.3 agenda item is that even though I've been trying to follow the council, this is the first I've heard of any kind of major expansion of the contract for stormwater engineering services, which I think I understand relates directly to planning for potential future flood problems and what we need to do as a city about that. I live on the border of the floodplain over the old Cassis property. So I'm not only community concerned about this, I'm very personally concerned about it. And I think I would like to request that this item be tabled tonight until there was a better airing of what this is all about, because it's critical. The decisions we make right now about emergency planning around flooding will create our future. And I don't think we need to rush through a contract expansion that we don't understand. And the public needs to have a better understanding of what this is about. Is the Planning Commission involved with this? Is there a process for deliberating what factors need to be considered within a contract expansion? I don't have the answers to those questions, but I have concerns. I have very deep concerns, particularly that because the floodplain that I border is the area that's being proposed for the development of 21 acres of multi-million-dollar houses, which to me makes absolutely no sense when we are beset with predictions
Please wrap up your comments.
of increased flooding. What are we doing?
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Helen Whalen Bashaw. Following Helen will be Brenda Gustin.
Hello again. I'm Helen Whalen Bashaw, and I live off of Rod Beaudry. I oppose this for the following reason. When looking over this, we don't know what the initial contract was for, but as a management person looking at this, I see, okay, so in July of 2019, we awarded a contract not to exceed $450,000 that was to serve a 3-year commitment. So then I go through, and we're not finished with the 3rd year yet, and now we are adding $1 million more to it, it appears, a little more than $1 million. And it, to me, looks like part of the money that they're talking about, when you look at the expenses, covers from the year 2021 to 2023 on what the costs are going to be. And so when I look at this, I'm thinking to myself, did we circumvent the system of putting out a bid for a contract for something new because we're going to just amend the current contract and let the current contractor that we kind of like have more money? It doesn't look really legit to me, but then I'm only a citizen, and I'm more concerned about where we're spending our money. And my thing is, why wasn't this mentioned in the original contract that we're now into? I mean, everybody knows we have floods, and we're looking at that the proposed drainage facility using the Rancho Cordova Stormwater Capital Improvement Program Master Plan. What have they been doing for the last few years? Makes me kind of wonder. I think this should be tabled. I think you should have a meeting open to the public so the public can put their input on it. And if this project is a way of circumventing the system to give a contract to a contractor that y'all like, that's in violation. To me, it doesn't look really sound. It looks like it's kind of showing favoritism and not going out with the scope of work that other people can bid on, and maybe we'll get a better deal. It just doesn't look right to me, and you can probably say I'm wrong, Adam, but I'm just looking at it. It looks like they overran their budget. Now the city's trying to compensate them for it. It just doesn't look right to me. I think we need to have more community involvement. You have a group of community members here that really want to get involved because we want to know where our money's going. And not a lot of people get involved because they don't have the time or they don't think it's important. But you have a core group that shows up quite frequently, and we would kind of like to get involved because we'd like to find out where our money's going. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Brenda Gustin.
Hi, I didn't know I would be able to speak on this. I did send a letter in, though. So I'll just add a few things. I do feel it's important on this subject for the public to understand the purpose that West Yost and Associates, why they're including preparation of flood plan mapping and a map change, which is the conditional letter of map revision, and a letter of map revision applications to FEMA. So I'm just curious about that. Those who are involved with the Central Valley Flood Control Board's extensive work on the flood protection plan would like to see the city of Rancho Cordova and its planning department include its citizens in the necessity for the Clomer and Lomer. I would also like to see the city of Rancho Cordova inform citizens of the extensive work being done to update this extensive flood protection plan and involve citizens through Sacramento County and the greater metropolitan areas. It's an amazing plan, and it does really dictate that floodways be protected and even expanded. So I don't really understand why we're not paying attention to that with regard to this proposed project through TrueMark, even though there's a lot of citizens that would like to see that one done differently. And $1 million on top of a contract that, from what I can tell, didn't include these letters before. So now all of a sudden they are, and I'd kind of like to know why. And since we don't get apprised of this until Friday night, and it's Monday. There's no way for us to do any due diligence before you guys make a decision to spend another $1 million. So I would like to have you table this and inform us a little bit more and maybe bring in the flood protection plan for people to see. I think it would be really great to educate our citizens about what's going on in Sacramento with these potential floods. The Central Valley Flood Control Agency states that it's not about if it's going to flood, it is when, and that they have an extensive program stating that if we don't have protective measures in place, that we will flood worse and have worse damage than New Orleans. And this is real. This is from experts. So I'm definitely not an expert, but I have been getting to know about all of these things. And like Helen said, we're here to actually help because I don't think the city council gets enough information to make these decisions. So anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I do not have any additional speaker cards, and I'm looking at Zoom, and I do not see any hands that are raised, Mayor Terry.
Nor do I. Cyrus, Albert, do we want to have a staff presentation to address any of the comments or questions we just got from the public?
Yeah, I would like to request our Public Works Director to address this issue.
Okay.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Terry and members of the council. Albert Stricker with the Public Works Department. This is a professional services agreement for engineering services, specifically for water resources engineering support that's provided to the Public Works Department and the city of Rancho Cordova. The majority, and this is a fairly broadly written contract because it's to provide general services. So it's not focused on any one specific project. We have good history of what this contract has been used for in the past, the majority, and expected in the future. The majority of these services are used to provide support for development review. So there's been quite rapid development in the city and the region, and we've expended that contract largely for those development services, reviewing of drainage studies and plans to ensure that they are safe and in compliance with local, state, and federal regulations. So because of the rate of the development that's occurred, we've expended those dollars. We do expect for there to be further development coming to the city and ongoing plans and studies that are coming in for review. And so these additional dollars are to accommodate those services provided. The costs of the majority of that contract, where it is provided for service to developers, are direct billed and paid for by the developers. There is a relatively smaller portion of this is support to the city for our capital projects as well.
And Council, if I may also add to what Albert said, in most agencies, this service, they have a department or they have a large number of staff that provides this service. We have chosen, it's by choice and by design, to utilize consultants and outside engineers to do that, provide that service for us because of the some of the specific expertise that we may be looking for at times for the different projects. But this is not in any way or form or shape is intended to bypass the local state rules or policies. This is in fact to verify that if a project or when a project is proposed, that level of review is done and that the information is provided before the council makes a decision on a project.
Thanks,
So,
go ahead, Linda.
Donald, yeah. So, Albert, my husband, who's a civil engineer, and I actually wrote a letter of map revision, what Brenda called a LOMAR, a couple of decades ago for a neighbor of ours when we lived in Riviera East, because we had surveyed the area and we knew which houses were above the floodplain and which houses were below the floodplain. as you went further to the west toward the city of Sacramento. Could you talk about the fact that these federal maps are reviewed on a routine basis and updated as necessary?
Absolutely, and I would appreciate, we have Dahlia Fadl, who is our principal engineer that manages our drainage team, and maybe she can help with some of those details.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, City Council members, City Manager. Thank you for having me. Yes, Linda, so the FEMA maps do, there are updates to the FEMA map that get posted regularly. And as a local agency, we do have the opportunity to review those maps. And if we have comments or corrections or things like that, we can provide that information to FEMA. Because sometimes they don't necessarily have the boots on the ground data that we have as a local agency. So we also do have CD facilities like pump stations and channels and things like that within floodplain areas. This allows us the flexibility if there is a need to do some improvements on any of these facilities, that we can get support from West Yost with the FEMA submittals. So it is absolutely only as needed support when those items come up, and the money will only be used if there is an item that comes up and we use them for. So if we don't use them, then we don't spend the money. And like Albert explained, it is cost recovery for the majority of the contract. I would say 95% of it is cost recovery.
Super, thank you, Dahlia.
So to reiterate, Dahlia, what you're saying is we go up to 1.8 million and we only use any of those if we use their services. So we're just capping it at 1.8.
We're capping it at that amount, and we are extending it all the way to 2024 for efficiency. That is within the allowed extension term of the contract. We just thought it would be easier, instead of having to come to council every time we need money, to add an amount that's large enough to, for that entire period of time. If we don't have the need to use them, we will not use them. If we do, then they would only bill per task. So,
yeah, and this is for the entire city of Rancho Cordova, not for one specific area.
Exactly, and not for a specific project. This is for as needed support services. Yes.
And actually, the funny thing, Siri, some of us remember a Christmas, Cyrus can talk about this, a Christmas in 2005 or 6 or something, when the Madalena area flooded because the appropriate drainage facilities were not there. And there were people out waiting around in their Wellingtons trying to figure out how to get the water out, way out east, nowhere close to the river. But it has to do with, it simply has to do with the geography around here.
Absolutely.
So could I clarify a couple things? So multiple speakers brought up a flood plan, as if this was some part of working on a larger flood plan. But I just want to clarify a couple of things that I heard. We had a contract, and because development has gone so fast in the last 18 months to 2 years since we started that contract, that we expended all of the funds, because the funds are mainly for flood planning services for the new development areas, where most of that is paid for by development fees, correct? But we still, because we directly charge the developers and then pay the consultant as we collect the fee, it has to be brought to us because this contract is above the city manager's limit to extend the contract, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Mayor, just one clarification is that the services provided are generally reviewing studies that are prepared by the developer's engineer.
Yes.
Yeah. I just want to make sure. And again, the speakers that came to speak, I'm sure they have the best intentions, and I get that sometimes you'll see these contracts and see things posted on our agendas that they come out on a Friday. It's on consent. The staff think that this is a routine extension of a contract. I think there were a lot of things just espoused by at least one of the speakers, that the bidding process was avoided and other things like that. This went through a full bidding process. It's within the contract to extend it. we're anticipating, again, a robust development horizon for our new development areas, not only in the new residential areas, but in a lot of the commercial areas as well, and industrial areas. And we don't have necessarily these services in-house. We pay consultants to do this. Therefore, we have contracts for this, for waste management, for building departments in general, and a lot of other things. And these are where these contracts come from. And so I think I will say that I did note that that at least 2 members of the public, I guess 3, would like to have more of a conversation around the flood plan. And I think somebody had even suggested that that would be something that the planning commission might tackle. And I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. And maybe that is something that we put on their workload in the next 12 months or so to maybe have a larger conversation about it. But again, that is not what this contract is doing. This contract is direct professional services for our planning department to ensure that we continue to evaluate, oversee, analyze, and approve permits for general core services to the city. Is that an accurate?
And West Yost is a well-respected firm from West Sacramento, but also has distant cousin ties to the Yost family here in Rancho Cordova. So they know the area well. And I would move approval of 9.3.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
I'm going to say Sander on that one. So motion by Budge, second by Sander. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Pulapati?
Yes.
Councilmember Sander?
Aye.
Councilmember Gatewood is absent. Vice Mayor Budge?
Yes.
Mayor Terry?
Aye. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to consent public hearing items. Consent public hearing items consist of matters deemed routine and non-controversial by staff. Unless a member of the council wishes to pull an item for individual consideration, all items will be approved by one motion. I'm going to go ahead and at least share up front. I will need to recuse myself from item 10.2 due to the fact that I believe that development is
in your back door.
Not exactly, but it's pretty darn close. So we're going to go ahead and let me go sit in the Zoom hallway for a minute.
Okay. If you'll open the public hearing, then I'll move approval of 10.1.
Well, hang on. So I'm gonna need to recuse myself. Let me ask first. So let me open the public hearing. And then I just want to ascertain, what do we have public comment on, Stacy?
We have 2 public comment cards for 10.1. We have 2 public comment cards for 10.2, and I see a hand currently raised in Zoom.
Okay.
I will withdraw the motion.
Thank you. So let's start with, because we have public comment for both of them, so we can't move the calendar at all. So let's take 10.1. And we'll take the commenters in the room, and then I'm gonna just ask the Zoom commenter, who I believe was a commenter from earlier, if you're wanting to comment on 10.1, keep your hand up. If you want to comment on 10.2, put your hand down for now, and we'll come back for 10.2. But keep in mind that your hand's up at the moment, so you'll end up commenting only on 10.1 if you leave your hand up. Stacy, go ahead. We'll take the commenters in the room for 10.1.
The first speaker card is for James Garcia. Following James will be Helen Whalen Bashaw. James?
Hello, I'm James Garcia again. I'm a resident of Stone Creek, and I just kind of wanted to know a little more about this ordinance, because it doesn't seem like the maps are clear enough as to what exactly they will cover, such as the full length of certain levees, some of the different creeks, certain areas, and also kind of about the Mather Heritage Trail. That's also a kind of a historical, nice little area that was brought up at a neighborhood watch meeting, at least under my understanding, that it was going to have some policing done by the police to kind of help curb some of the homeless and activities there. But there's been some evidence recently that there are homeless still residing there, and that is kind of in a critical area that is subject to fire. Harder for the fire department to get in there to help take care of that, since this ordinance is My understanding of it is it's to help prevent fires from happening around here, City Hall, for example, the police department, Kilgore Cemetery. We don't want that infrastructure to be destroyed along with all the different storm drain basins and that. So just have a better idea of what clearly is there, because it spells out a lot, but then the actual ordinance doesn't define every single thing there. And it mentions that it is subject to additional approval by council members to add additional areas of concern. And again, I just feel that you need a little more defined definitions of what you're trying to protect and where, and then how often the council can actually bring it back up for discussion to add additional things or possibly remove them if it's no longer deemed necessary to protect that area. So that's kind of just my thought, is it's a little too vague. Love the idea of trying to protect all that infrastructure, but please define it a little better of what you can and can't do and when. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Helen?
Hi, I'm Helen Bashaw. I oppose this as written. I'm going to take to a real critical thing. I'm a person that believes in attention to detail. The stuff that you present should accurately reflect. So when I look at attachment 5, and I zero in on one of my favorite places, which is Rod Beaudry, you have a brown line which depicts the levee. When I looked at this with the magnifying glass, you do not cover the entire length of that levee, which is Rod Beaudry. And I think that's real important because we have a particular horse owner that likes to ride up and down the levees on her horse, and you only cover a small portion of it. So I think that needs to be corrected. And I was looking at the storm basin that runs along the same area that Kinder Morgan is going to store the little tanker trucks or tanker cars. And it shows that it flows into the American River. And that project would impact this thing drastically. I also noted that in the writing, some of the stuff is kind of vague and ambiguous. If let's say we have a cooling station and homeless show up, it says that no one can bring their personal stuff within so many feet of the cooling station. Well, what accommodations are we going to have for the homeless that show up to try cooling down to put their personal items, because we don't want them passing out on the public streets because they have heat exhaustion. So I think that there is a lot of stuff in here, but it's vague and ambiguous and needs to be more defined. And I think that somebody really needs to go over this map and properly identify those items. And I realize it's going to be voted on, and you're going to say, I misrepresented what's actually there or something to that degree. But I believe in attention to detail. Vague and ambiguous leaves it open to personal interpretation of the people in the city. And the people who live in the city have a right, when they go to try to get something addressed, that the city have defined rules and procedures that govern each one of these things. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll move into Zoom. I think that was Fiza, who's got her hand up for 10.1. Go ahead.
Fiza, you've been unmuted.
Hi, yes, this is Fiza in Lincoln Village, and I'm calling about the ordinance amending Title IX, Public Peace, Morals, and Safety. The amendment in question, I take issue with a couple of the identified locations that we are identifying as critical infrastructure. I'm pleased with protecting waterways, creeks, water pumps, facilities like that. That makes sense to me. But what I am sort of not happy with is what I would consider a hub of services for community, having potentially a ban for personal items belonging to the unhoused who may also be seeking to access these services. And I'll give you a couple of examples of how I feel maybe that's unfair. When speaking to our hot officers a few years ago in our community meeting in Lincoln Village, I learned something new, that a lot, I would say the bulk of the calls they respond to for the unhoused, it turned out the individuals are native Rancho Cordovans, meaning they went to school here, they grew up here, they have current family members living here. They are us, they are residents. They may be unhoused and out on the streets, but they are Rancho Cordova residents. So knowing that, it kind of changed my perspective on what I was seeing and who I was seeing out here. An example I can give to you was early June. I went to City Hall to pick something up from the clerk's desk, and there was a gentleman in the hobby with a head wound, and he looked like he was resting, and he looked like he may have been inside to get out of the heat. And I went to your clerk, and she was very kind and helpful, and I got some first aid items and tried to approach the gentleman to see if he'd allow me to help him get cleaned up. Another man was standing in the lobby, had noticed him, and told me that he was trying to rouse the man to give him water, get him a meal. And he offered to take the first aid items and help the man as well. So I left the items with this gentleman, this perfect stranger, this good Samaritan, and I left the building. Not 30 minutes later, I get a phone call from Stacy, who had made sure the man received first aid. She had called emergency services, and I was able to let her know on my way out the gentleman had left his belongings, a few bags. He did appear to be transient. He had tucked them out of the way in the dry scaping in front of City Hall. He didn't want to bring them inside. He didn't want to clutter the space, and he was very respectful for where he had left them. And I appreciated her call. I appreciated her taking action. And this is an example of somebody who needed access to City Hall, and with all their belongings in their bags, not wanting to leave it behind and have something happen to his items. Okay, and one more example is the police station. I don't believe should be on critical services list. If I am unhoused, for example, and sexually assaulted, and I want to make a report at the police station, I will show up with my bags and perhaps have them within 50 feet of the building. So we don't want to create barriers to access to services. That's the point I'm making. Thank you very much.
Mayor Terry, those are all the hands that I see that are raised in Zoom.
Thank you. I was talking to myself there on mute. Cyrus, is there any staff presentation to this or any comments on what we just heard that would like to be shared? It looks like our city attorney's nodding his head yes.
Yeah, I believe our city attorney can address the concerns.
All right, thank
Put
you.
Adam.
Thank you very much, Mayor, Council, and members of the community. Let me just address a few of these comments in order. First, the ordinance, as to the last commenter, the ordinance is written in such a way as to only limit the places where camping activities can occur. It's not written to, and it would not be enforced in a way to prevent unhoused individuals from accessing services at any city facility, whether that's the police station or City Hall. It only applies to encampments. It only applies to camping and occupying a camp facility in those situations. It would not apply to somebody leaving a bicycle or leaving some other cart of some sort outside of City Hall or another public facility to come in and access city services. Second, the ordinance is written in such a way that the actual body of the ordinance sets up the basic regulatory framework, but then, and it authorizes by resolution a list to be prepared, and that list is what has the detail of the facilities that would actually be characterized as critical infrastructure. And we think that this structure is really important because it does give the flexibility to update that list if there were fires or if there were other critical emergency incidents, if there were other critical needs for services that changed the way that the city needed to, and the justifications for updating a particular things about what is critical infrastructure. And for the benefit of the public, what that means is exactly what one or two of the members of the public were asking for, is the use of that list can be more nimble. An ordinance, of course, to become effective takes well over 60 days by the end of the first reading, the second reading, and then the 30-day period to go into effect. So we think that really for both the people who may be impacted by some of the activities of unhoused individuals, and similarly by the unhoused individuals themselves who may still need services, this is a good structure. As to the particular comments about the map, we have taken a good shot at working to have a single map and a single list. What we're really addressing on that single map are, as you can see, a number of different kinds of facilities, all of them critical to the city operations in different ways, and all of them facilities that could be endangered or damaged or hampered in their effectiveness. Now that said, it is entirely possible that a particular line could have extended another 1/8 of an inch or so. The ordinance is structured in such a way that you could potentially introduce the ordinance tonight and ask us to come back with the resolution. The resolution can't be used until the ordinance has a second reading and goes into effect. So if there were, in the estimation of the city manager or the code enforcement manager, a particular minor change that we wanted to make, you could either give us direction to make that change when you adopt the resolution, or you could ask us to come back at the next meeting. We haven't prejudged this and have any desire to push this through without any changes. It's certainly something that the council has every ability to give us direction to make changes to, if you would like to do so. Mr. City Manager, do you have any other comments, or would you like the code enforcement manager to?
Not at this point, unless the council has any further questions.
My only question to you would be, this is fairly consistent with other ordinances that we're seeing in the region and in California in general around response to certain legal precedents, especially the Boise case, that having this on record allows for the flexibility of enforcement in order to ensure that these critical infrastructure sites that we're identifying stay accessible and are not damaged by encampments.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
And also, that encampments be in places where people wouldn't be in danger of flooding or drainage or other things. It's really an ordinance that the list is selected to protect both parts of the public.
Yeah. Colleagues, any questions for staff?
No, but I would bring up the fact that the thing about flooding is really important, because we know that, not only is there degradation of the environment along the American River, not to mention that 100 fires that Metro Fires had to put out this summer already on the Parkway, but every winter when the water rises, then the people who are down there are all in danger of being drowned if they don't get out in time. And then, of course, all their belongings, which are down there, all float away and they become part of the huge water quality problem in the river. And so I truly believe that our attorney's office has done a great job of creating an ordinance that, as you say, Donald, mirrors a lot of what's being done in the region, but also is sensitive to the kinds of issues that were talked about by the public.
Yeah.
So I would move approval of 10.1.
Thanks. And I would just comment too that if we want to see the impact of flooding, if we go back to the year that the Oroville Dam almost broke, let's put it that way, we had a significant uptick in the point in time count that was held a couple weeks after that. And it was because our flood plain had been so full that for the first time in over a decade in doing the point in time count, we didn't spend a lot of time going down into the riverbeds to look for homeless people because they were up in our shopping centers and our parking lots on Folsom Boulevard where we could find them really easily. And that was the same across the region. Was you have a lot of people that are down in the floodplain in the parkway that during significant flooding events, they end up coming into the community. And it's kind of the same, you know, we're also looking at this because we have a lot of surrounding jurisdictions that, again, are adopting very similar policies that by enforcing said policies in other jurisdictions, like the Parkway, which is not run by the city, it's run by the county. If the county gets really serious about enforcement into the Parkway and into low-lying areas, we could see an influx of those individuals onto our critical infrastructure within the city. So I think it's something to be prepared for in light of what we're seeing from places like the county and across the riverbeds.
Right.
So we have a motion. Do we have any other questions for staff? I don't want to cut off debate or questions, but we do have a motion. So either more questions or a second.
I second.
Okay. I have a motion and I have a motion by Budge, a second by Pulapati. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Pulapati?
Yes.
Councilmember Sander?
Aye.
Councilmember Gatewood is absent. Vice Mayor Budge?
Yes.
Mayor Terry?
Aye. Thank you. With that, I'm going to turn the proverbial gavel over to the vice mayor. You know, neither of us have a gavel and neither of us are in the room. But I'll let her take over for 10.2 as I recuse myself, and somebody let me know when I get to come back. Thanks.
So somebody let me know when he's out of the, well, he's
out of Zoom.
He's out of the room, so, okay.
Out of Zoom.
Yeah, that too, Zoom room. So item 10.2, the Sunridge Villas. I'm gonna ask that we pull this from consent because there was an issue brought up last time that I don't see addressed in the staff report, unfortunately. So.
We get to hear the public comments on this one?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, Stacy, you did say there was public comment.
Yeah. We have two speaker cards for this item. First is Helen Whalen Bashaw, and second is James Garcia.
Okay.
Hi, Helen Whalen Bashaw here again. I'm opposing what is presented in 10.2, and the reason I'm doing it is it seems like we're taking lots, we're modifying some restrictions that have been placed on, like how far the setbacks have to be to meet the size of the lot. My big concern is as we modify these and we jam more houses on these smaller areas and we take away what would normally be an amenity like a community park, we're shortchanging the city for its future. There are some housing that are in that have pretty fronts on them. I don't think anybody ever uses the doors. They go through the back door. So when you changed over from one type of housing to another type, I don't think that's right, because you're defeating the purpose when you go from multifamily to single family, and then when you put more houses on an acre than what was there before, and then you get rid of the community area, down the road, we're gonna have problems, because there's no place for parents with young children to be with their children. I'm just really, like opposed to it on that. Thank you.
James Garcia.
Hello, James Garcia again, Stone Creek neighborhood. I'm opposed to the 10.2 as it's written now, because there's a lot more issues. There used to be there's a developer agreement in place again, as of ends in 2027. They're using the Sun Ridge specific plan from July 17th of 2002, which was a county plan again. It zoned this as limited commercial, which allowed medium density multifamily homes not to take more than 25% of the lot for its use. That includes the whole Rayleigh shopping center strip there. So you are now putting on what should have been multifamily homes into single family homes. You are doing 114 single family homes, of which back in 2017, it was approved to switch to that style of home, single family homes. You also approved offsets or setbacks to be reduced significantly. This county wanted to have 15-foot setbacks for two-story homes. All of these are two-story homes. They all have the same footprint of 30 feet by 44 feet if you count from the backyard to the front porch space. There's no difference in actual plan other than the second story, which increases your actual square footage of the lot. So you cannot change from plan 1 to plan 2 on these small lots. So that's one aspect. There's 5 of these lots that are in question that are gonna have less than 10 foot of a setback from the house to the property line. That is ridiculous if you wanna actually have a family live there. You are now turning this into a kind of a investor turn-off rental property instead of actual families who wanna live there because you have no services. If you were to actually scrap those 5 lots that are in question that are trying to get extra special permitting beyond the special permit you already asked for in 2017, you should go ahead and build like a community garden. You want to actually have an enhancement to the community or have a community park there. There's 5 lots that you can do this with. You can put out workout stations like in other communities. There's one at a small park right off of Bear Hollow called West Waterbrook Park. It's a very, very tiny park that would fit this type of a bid of this small plot. It went from 4,000 square feet to 2,600 square feet. That is ridiculously small to have that many. I know the county wanted to have 7 units per acre. Even at the 114, that's 9.5 units per acre. You go down to 109 because you scrapped those 5, you're at 9.1 units per acre. Think about it, use the math. Don't do any more special permitting. It's ridiculous.
Vice Mayor Budge, I'm just going to ask the public if there's anybody in Zoom who'd like to raise their hand and speak to this item as well.
Sure.
I don't see any hands that are raised.
Okay, so Stacy, do we have staff to address this, or do we have an applicant in the room?
Vice Mayor Budge, we do have staff available, and the applicant is actually also in the room to answer any questions or make any clarifications.
Okay, well, let me, I'm the one that asked that this be continued. And number one, people need to realize that this was approved ages ago. And number two, it has absolutely nothing to do with proposed amenities for this particular project. However, over the last 5 years, in our own personal attempt to downsize, we almost bought a house with and we've got 300 of these in Capitol Village with a 10-foot backyard. And I know how small a 10-foot backyard is. And that's fine for some people. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for a lot of people, but as I said, it works just fine for some people. However, I just personally don't believe that less than 6 feet is an appropriate setback from the fence. Because what I envision has nothing to do with rentals. What I envision is that you're talking about a piece of ground that is so small that it's relatively unusable. And so it would become a weed patch. A lot of us, in a lot of yards here in Cap Village, the side yard, which is really only big enough, one of the side yards, which is really only big enough for the air conditioning unit, is nothing but weeds. It's never used for anything. When you have 2-story houses, you have a lot of shade. You have a lot of sun on one side and you have a lot of shade on the other side. And the side that is so small and not usable and not very accessible becomes a weed patch. And I'm concerned that this is not a very productive way to design a community. And I understand that the builder is trying to create as many lots as possible. But I think we would all be happy to hear his perspective on why the backyards can't be balanced out a little better. So I would ask, unless staff has some additional comments, I would ask the home builder or their representative to talk about this.
Yes, applicant is coming up now.
Good evening, Ken
Thank you.
Tauber, Morton Patallo, land planner at Morton Patallo. I've got the team, I
Ken?
believe, should be on Zoom as well, and Bill Hartman from Breaches is here as well. Actually, I just wrote down, I appreciate all your comments, Vice Mayor Budge. And I want to clarify some things, and the last line that I wrote, you mentioned the balance approach. I think that in fact, what is a little lost here is that these are all, the 5 cases that we have are 5 different areas where we've fitting the product on. We have a slight fit problem in a corner. All except for 1 or 2 have a rear yard, which is a 9-foot, I believe, rear yard. I just look at the detail here. The other ones are all corners. So in reality, and I do have some examples that I brought. I don't know if you can put them up.
They're actually in your staff report, Vice Mayor Linda Budge. It's on page 8 and 9, and you'll see that what Ken's talking about are the pinch points in the
that's a good word.
setbacks of the
Oh.
rear setbacks.
Okay,
And-
so Ken, are you talking about the little shaded squares?
Yes, so I
On
actually
exhibits?
don't remember looking at that. So these are in here, but I've actually done a little bit further that I did today once we were talking about this issue coming up. And I tried to highlight all of the lots that are in the 5 that are being asked for the pinch points, basically. And that's a good way to put it, Arlene. There are side yards, significant side yards on a lot of those, because what they are, and you members that were here with the original approval, remember we fit this stuff and it was a very tight fit. I'm actually pretty happy because the setbacks that are actually utilized throughout the project are actually more significant in the sense of what we had originally with the approval. These are only little pinch points in most cases on some of the odd-shaped lots that we have. That's why there's only 5. And in each of those cases, and I don't know if you can look at this, I thought we had a presentation, there's actually an offset that's significant in the sense that all of these 5 lots actually, I think, have more usable yard for the residents than the typical lot that has a 10-foot rear.
Okay, now that's understandable, actually, because if you think back to years ago, when we did things like zero lot line or the garden style houses, for instance, Mills Ranch on Coloma Road is all zero lot line and garden style. So the lack of usable space on one side was made up by adding that space to another side so that there was a usable space that wrapped around one side of or two sides of the building as opposed to all four sides of the building.
And you might remember one of the things that was when we brought this forward in 5 years ago now already, I can't believe it's been that long. One of the concerns that you all expressed at the time was side yards, because this was proposed as a zero lot line product. At the time, we didn't have product. I actually am pretty happy in the sense that when they actually came in with product that they're going to build, and this project is moving into construction right now, we ended up with full-on side yards. So we went from 5 feet between buildings 0 and 5 to 5 on both sides. So there's actually a lot more space open throughout this project than was originally contemplated, which to me is a positive. And again, if you look at some of these lots like 81 and 83, for example, the setback that we're asking for is literally 1 foot to 2 feet. But if you look at where the house fits, and this is the reason why the house is put on that plan, it's really just a small little corner of the house. Because in almost all the cases, because the lot is that weird configuration, we get a larger side yard or a larger rear yard on the other side, and it's just these pinch points. There is a couple that do more, like 12 is one where we've gone to an 8-foot backyard instead of a 10. But again, that lot is on a strange configuration where it comes with the alley. So we've got a large side yard that would be actually very usable, because your point to these areas not being used, I think it's the balance. It's the balance of the yard that is available. And there's only 5 lots.
Okay, so if I make sure we know what we're looking at, if we look at lot 4,
yes,
lot 4 actually might be a little bit bigger than lot 3.
It is.
Or if we look at lot 23, it might actually be a little bit bigger than 22. Or then 83 and 81, if I'm reading the perimeters correctly, are way bigger than 58, 57, 61, and 62.
Yes, I would agree. 83 and 81 are actually some of, I would call them the premium lots, to be honest.
I was going to say,
the amount of yard that they have.
Yeah, not looking at the overall site plan, but 81 might actually be, 81 and 1 might actually be the largest lots in the whole community, in the whole neighborhood.
Yes. And again, and I have this thing, literally there's a little tiny speck, which is the corner of the building, which doesn't fit. We came forward, last year, knowing that we weren't actually meeting the setback. And from that point forward, it's always been an issue that we felt like it was a very minor encroachment. There are a couple that are a little bit, and I think when you spoke a month ago, we talked about lot 4, which is a little bit more of an encroachment. That one is because of the wall and the channel that's behind the lot. The other thing we'd say is that a lot of these lots, because we're surrounded by lot F, which is an HOA lot, which was discussed heavily in 2017, and the channel, there's not many cases where there's lots that are 10 feet behind each other. Most of these lots actually face out either to the commercial area or the channel, which is open. So it's not a question of buildings being too close to one another, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and I actually went through and looked at it, and only about 27 lots are a condition where we've got a 10-foot to a 10-foot rear yard between units. It's only 27 of the 114. Everything else backs up to an open space or a commercial or to a lot that's got a bigger setback.
That's really helpful. I appreciate your explanation, Ken. I think getting a better picture now than we had before. So I would ask David and Siri, do you have any questions or comments for Ken or for Bill?
I do not have for the home builder, but I do have for Cyrus. Two things items like this would moving forward go through the planning commission. Am I right?
Yes, in the future, the design review items will go to the planning commission.
And when does that start?
We expect it to be in the next probably 2 to 3 months. We're still going through some training with planning commission members. There has been a fair amount of training so far, but there's large body of information that they need to go through and understand. So that's the process we're going through now.
And the other question is, so all the construction that's happening beside the Rayleighs over there, is it only the single family lots? Because my understanding is there's more like apartment style being built, or is this just it?
I'm not, Arlene, can you address that specific question?
For this specific project, it would just be these single-family lots.
No, not for
Councilmember.
like, yeah, it's not with respect to this project, but beside Rayleigh's, is this the only homes that are being constructed, or is there another project beside it?
I'm going to have Darcy respond to that.
Good evening, council members. We do have a proposed project just west of Rayleigh's for apartment.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
But Darcy, that's not the construction that we can all see out there now.
Correct. It is still vacant land that's undisturbed.
So, okay. So as of now, the only construction that's started and ongoing is the single family lot.
Yeah, the proposal, I think, is on the west side of Morrison Creek and the drainage or pump station that's there.
That's the correct location.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, Siri, everything wrapping around Rayleigh's is all this project.
Right. Okay.
David, anything else?
No questions. It seems like a pretty simple matter.
Great. Ken, anything else that you or Bill want to talk about?
No, I don't think so. I'd just like to thank staff for all their effort. It's been a long time coming for, I would agree, a fairly simple matter. I'm glad, it sounds like we've kind of clarified some things, and we're hoping that you will allow us to have approval so we can continue the construction that is going on out there right now.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So, okay, are we ready for a motion?
Yes.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Stacy, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Sander?
Aye.
Councilmember Pulapati?
Yes.
Councilmember Gatewood is absent. Vice Mayor Budge?
Yes.
Mayor Terry has recused himself.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. If we can invite Donald back into the room, in the Zoom room. Oh, Donald.
You remind me of Mickey and Donald that my kids used to watch.
Well, tell you what, while Donald is connecting to audio, are you there?
I am here.
Great.
I
Okay.
actually figured out how to watch it on my computer while I was in the other room. So thanks for that, and we will dispense with the consent the consent hearing items. We have no public hearing items, so we'll move on to regular calendar items, which will be 12.1. And it'll be an update to the City of Rancho Cordova technology update. And I think I'm turning it over to Kim. There she is.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Kim Duran, Cara Giorgio, Administrative Services Director. So the purpose of tonight's presentation is to provide the council and the community with an update on the investment that the city has been making into its technology infrastructure. Over the last several years, a significant amount of staff time has gone into the implementation of new software systems. When complete, these upgraded systems allow the city to provide enhanced customer service with additional online functionality, improved access to information, and the ability to access and leverage data to improve efficiencies and measure results. Next slide, please. So tonight we will highlight some of the enhanced capabilities that are possible since the city implemented EnerGov, its new land management and permitting system. The three ladies who will be presenting this evening are our team of kind of internal EnerGov experts. They will be talking about the rollout of the new system and continuing to build out the system to the fullest extent. We will start by walking through some of the utilization data that we have collected since launching Rancho Cordova Online in March of 2020, and also highlight the enhanced online customer support made possible through the use of decision engine technology. Staff will then highlight the field efficiencies made possible by the use of the EnerGov Inspection mobile app and some of the data analytics that are now available through Tyler Hub. And then we will then transition to an exciting new map tool that will enable the public to search for plans, permits, and business licenses in the city and sign up for notification and alerts. We will close it out by highlighting some other technology initiatives that are also underway. So with that, I will hand it over to Kelly Whitman from our planning department.
Good evening, Mayor Terry and Council. So we're going to start with some analytics, as Kim pointed out. So phase one was our licensing. So that's going to be our business licenses as well as our pet licenses and professional licenses. That was phase one in March 2020. Phase two brought in our development kind of realm, which includes planning, building permits, as well as public works. There's also we launched with room rentals, and then we wrapped in there's a small collision report for our Rancho Cordova Police Department that was also added into that. Since March 2nd, 2020 through August 8th of 2022, we have had over 29,700 page visits to our Rancho Cordova online portal. So also in that same date range of March 2020 to August 2022, we have seen over 6,710 registered users. So registered users are general public customers, applicants. They're registering so that they can submit an application. We are seeing a trend that it is about 2,500 registered users per year. However, we do anticipate that we will exceed that number in 2022, considering we already are about just shy of 1,800 new registered users this year. So a little more stats. This is just from this year, so January 1st, 2022 to July 31st of 2022. You will see that we are still heavy with the licensing aspect, since it is still the permitting aspect for public works, building and planning. And like I said, our collision report requests and facility room rentals is still new, and we are still getting that word out there that it is available for submission online. So we do anticipate that that will level out, and we'll see kind of it trending a little bit more evenly distribution between the licensing and the permitting. So we have gone ahead and added, well, we've released additional building permits that are available online through Rancho Cordova online for submission. As of May 16th, 2022, plumbing, mechanical, and electrical permits, as well as re-roof permits, were added to the site for submission. And then in July, around July 25th, 2022, we added solar permits, electrical vehicle chargers, production homes, pools, as well as residential miscellaneous structures. And then coming soon will be demo permits as well as residential repair. And we have added the collision report request for the Rancho Cordova Police Department.
Kim, can I ask you a question?
Sure, go ahead, Linda.
Demo permits. Demo permits require clearances from electrical and gas providers. Is everybody else online or in line with us, or is that a glitch because we don't control it?
We can still allow for submission of those types of permits online. It doesn't mean that it will be granted immediately. It is still taken in and reviewed, and those appropriate approvals are obtained before the permit is issued.
Okay, I understand. I'm just, excuse me, I'm just thinking about the issue we always have with the fact that in the building permit process, we only control what we control. We don't control the outside agencies or companies that that may also be a part of approving a building permit. So that's why I asked the question.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
So next we want to highlight a tool that we have gone live with. We are actually the first with the software company that we chose to go live with this tool in the nation. So it is called Decision Engine, and it is a interactive guide that helps customers to direct them to the correct application to submit to the city by asking logical questions. Customers would start by choosing kind of the overarching category of what they're looking to apply for, whether that be a license, permit, plan, facilities, room rental, collision report requests. And then we also have kind of an other category that kind of just captures other processes that necessarily don't go by those broader names. Once, so for our example tonight, we're going to go down the line of applying for a permit. So once you select permit, then you have these options presented to you of whether or not you would be requesting submission of a building permit, sidewalk vendor permit, use permit, adjustment permit, small cell pole, street use / encroachment permit, tree pruning or removal, or transportation permit. So this applicant is looking to request for a tree pruning removal permit. So next they would be directed to answer the following questions on the screen. So basically, is the tree being removed or pruned more than 10%? Is it on residential or commercial? So they would just continue to answer these questions, and then it will further direct them either to the appropriate application, or in some cases, if it based on the responses to the questions, if a permit is not required, it would also provide them that information. So based on the answers on the screen that you see now, the system did determine that a tree permit would be applicable, and it takes them to that, and they would click the apply button to continue with the process and to apply for that permit. As you can see on this screen, if they slightly answered the different questions just a little bit, I believe the only answer that changed was the bottom question, which is saying no, that it is not a native oak or heritage tree, then the response is that based upon the answers, a tree permit is not required, and it will direct them to the appropriate staff member for if they have additional questions.
So this may be a very naive question, but how does the computer know whether or not a residential project had an approved landscape plan or or what kind of a tree it is?
So the computer doesn't know, it's asking the question. So the applicant is providing that answer. So they're stating no, that it's not a heritage tree, or no, there's not an approved landscape plan. So it is up to the person applying for it to answer those questions, and then the system analyzes the data based on the responses.
Okay, well, I mean, this is great. All right, but let's use Stone Creek as an example. Stone Creek was probably our first project that had an approved landscape plan as part of the SPA and part of the development agreement. And there is an approved landscape plan, but if you are 2, 3, 4, or 5 owners down the road, who knows that? It's been 20 years. So, I mean, you see my point.
And I believe these are questions that would all be asked if somebody came into the counter. I mean, the thought logic behind the decision engine tool is really to try to replicate the conversation that would be taking place at the counter with somebody. And obviously there's a bit of a difference when a human being is involved and can maybe ask some more probing questions, but that is what the intent of this is. And hopefully, most cases it works, but, technology is not 100% accurate. It is based on how a applicant responds to those questions. So certainly there's a, potential for things that may get missed if somebody answers a question incorrectly.
Okay. Thank you.
So I would just like to highlight the tool that was just given an overview of the decision engine. As Kelly mentioned, the city was the first in the country to implement this tool, and the city was awarded a Tyler Excellence Award at the user conference in May of 2022. And Kelly and our own Jessica Crone attended the conference and represented the city and accepted the award on the city's behalf. And in addition, the two of them did teach a class at that user conference. It was packed and standing room only on end user adoption. So just another example of our team over here representing the city well and continuing to use the technology to its fullest.
The next thing that we're going to talk about are some field efficiencies. Field staff utilize IG Enforce and the IG Inspect applications. In the field, staff can easily identify pending inspections that are assigned to them by utilizing a list, map, or split screen feature, which are shown on the slide. Field staff can also search and view basic record information related to plans, permits, or licenses. Further field efficiencies related to casework include a workflow with steps that are easy to navigate and result in automation. Field staff can create cases, result inspections, take photos and attach them directly to the case, as well as generate notices that can be attached, emailed, and printed directly in the field to their Bluetooth printers. The Tyler Hub dashboard is a feature that we're starting to explore now that we are more familiar with InterGov and using it for just about a year. The Tyler Hub allows us to view and filter data by utilizing customized cards and pages. We're starting to build some of the pages which can show lists, graphs, charts, and we can filter and the information and extract data that we want to see. For example, on the screen you see pet licenses. We're able to show pending pet licenses based on their status, pet licenses that have been issued today, over the last 30 days, and over the last 365 days. Furthermore, we can show free animal licenses that have been funded through Measure R. Another example of a Tyler dashboard is shown here for parking enforcement and abandoned vehicle abatement. Currently, there are 98 active abandoned vehicle abatement cases. We can show a chart with the results of those inspections for the last 30 days, showing there's 145 cases that have been closed this month, as well as inspections that are due today that can actually update in real time. The last example that I have is a current look of code enforcement cases, which show inspections that are due today, total ongoing investigations by case type, and we're looking forward to continuing to expand our knowledge and further utilize these tools in the future.
Good evening, Mayor Terry and council members. I'm excited to showcase for you our new Rancho Cordova New Business and Development Projects map. This is a solution we've been working on, and we're excited to bring this to you. In this example, we have a map here where customers can go, and on the left-hand side, they have filtering options. They can take a look at different neighborhoods and what plans, permits, and business licenses might be in that area. You can see on the large map in the middle, there are plots, and they have numbers and icons that correspond with the different application types. They can enter a specific address, or they can also look it up by a specific record number. Here we're able to see that we have the ability to see the different application types that are specifically located in an area. Here we show there's 7 pins in this area. For general commercial business licenses, there's 4. There's 2 commercial building permits and a discretionary entitlement as well. If we look over to the right-hand side, we see that we get some really cool graphs and trends between the different types of applications. We also have the ability to show more detailed information for each specific record. So here we're able to see that we have an administrative entitlement that has been approved, and it specifies that the applicant is requesting this plan here. We're able to identify the zone for that application, as well as providing a link that can take the customer to more zoning information. So if they want to learn more about that particular zone, it takes them to one of our existing city web pages that displays that information. We also have a link for additional information. So if they wanted to see even more demographics on that record, they could click that link and it would direct them to our customer portal called Rancho Cordova Online. Other features that we have is there's different map views. So not only is there a street view, they can also take a look at a heat map and see certain areas of town that might have more plans than others. They do need to put in a specified date range if they like, or they can look it up for a 6-month period. And once again, you see we've got some charts over to the right-hand side, and you can see the different types of plans that have been submitted for. And one of the most features that we're excited to debut is the Create an Alert. So if the customer registers for an account, they can create an alert, and they can specify all of the different criteria that they're looking for. Perhaps they want to identify a 1-mile radius around their home, and they can actually create an alert that says, if a new plan or permit is created in a 1-mile radius of my location, send me an email. They can specify if they want that email to be sent daily, weekly, or monthly. They can also review their most recent searches, just in case they want to go back and take a look at what they had previously looked at. One thing to keep in mind is that this map will only include the records that currently exist in our new InterGov system. In regards to business license data, anything that was current and active at the time that we went live in March of 2020 will be displayed to present. And for plans and permits, also it will only be active items that was as of our go live date, August of 2021. The information that goes into our InterGov system will update nightly to this new mapping system. We anticipate going live with this in mid-September.
Quick question on this. Could they put alerts to, like, as we had at the start of the meeting, any meetings, any workshops with respect to land developments in their area?
This system, the system that's feeding this map tool is purely the permitting system. So it's going to be driven solely on submissions for licenses, permits, or plans in that land management system. So unfortunately, there's not currently a link to sort of our meeting system, and that could be incorporated into it.
Okay. Would that be something that we could do in the future?
Probably not anytime in the near future. That would be two totally different systems trying to integrate and talk. So it's not something that is in the cards immediately.
Okay, thank you.
So to wrap up what you've heard this evening, just to follow up, a lot of tonight was spent on our EnerGov system because that has been sort of a 3 to 4 year ongoing implementation, a major focus of staff to get that up and running. And now we're trying to move to a phase where we're leveraging these tools to further improve the customer experience, make sure we're using data, and also continuing to roll out additional online permits for customer ease of use, as well as focusing in the future some additional work effort in the e-review, so the e-plan review process. That's e-plan review stands for electronic plan review, to ensure that all departments are using it consistently, and also to Vice Mayor Budge's point, to start incorporating some of our outside agencies that are also willing to go in and use this system for that process. And then switching gears to our Central Square Finance ERP, we are in the final stages of that implementation, and our anticipated go live is the fourth quarter of this year. And with that, we do believe this new finance system will provide us far more enhanced reporting, better access, more timely information to financial information, as well as the ability to leverage that data for analytical dashboards and so forth. And then also our on-base document management system, which is managed by our city clerk team, is focusing its efforts on digitizing historical building permits and information, certificates of occupancy, and plans for improved search functionality and records retention. So overall, as we move forward with all of these technology initiatives, we are looking to try to go paperless as much as possible and to move things electronically. So a lot of staff effort is focused on those types of efficiencies. So with that, that concludes our presentation, and staff is available to answer any questions.
Let's start with, do we have any public comment on this item?
The city clerk's office has not received any speaker cards for this item, and I am looking in Zoom, and I do not see any hands that are currently raised.
Okay. Colleagues, any other questions or directions for staff?
I just have one question. When I was when I was doing building permits, some of the last permits I did were for Walmart and Sam's Club, and the plants were almost as tall as I am, and so they broke my card. And so, are there is there really the ability to scan plans that are like 4 by 5 in and replicate them in any kind of legible fashion on the computer?
This is Stacy, City Clerk. We are exploring right now with some discovery options with a consultant. We have an estimate from them with regards to what that might cost, and we are exploring that now. So is it possible? Yes, but we have plans in different systems that we obviously want to bring into OnBase, and we are exploring that integration.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? So
I just have a simple question of how do we compare to the peers, the neighboring jurisdictions? Are we ahead, behind, on par? What's that look like?
In regards to technology in general or a particular system?
I'd say broadly, I'm really impressed with what Sac County's done with planning, for example. And I know we're not there yet, but I'm interested in how do we measure our success here?
I think where we are right now, I think we're still playing a little bit of catch up in that we had to get sort of the base systems in place. And so sort of getting Energov up and running, getting the finance system up and running. And so getting those base systems in place where we can start to utilize and leverage the data as was demonstrated tonight is really sort of that next stage, which will get us to where many of our surrounding neighboring agencies are at, is just using and leveraging data that's coming into those systems to, whether it's to enable data analytics or to leverage that information to make it more accessible to the public. That is really the stage that we're heading into next.
I think, Councilman Sander, if I may add to it, I think it was about 5-6 years ago when we realized that some of our technology has not kept up to, so we have made significant investments in the last few years. I think you can, as it can be seen tonight with the amount of work that we have put in place and with the systems that we have implemented in the last 5 to 6 years, a tremendous amount of work and tremendous amount of investment has been made. And like Kim described, we have focused on, let's take our finance software. We have a legacy outdated system that was not even designed for government, and we have made the investment to bring that up to date. We've also, our permitting program, our permitting software, the investment that we've made is gives us the tools and the foundational information that we need to do exactly what you're doing to be able to catch up with some other agencies. But I think this set of investments will nicely set us up to go through a fairly quick catch up, I would expect in the next 6 to 12 months.
Thank you. I think this was a really good update, and I do appreciate the progress that you've been making on technology, Cyrus, and really a really great update. Thank you.
Ditto. Well, this is a receive and file. I don't think there's any action to be taken, correct?
No, it's not. I just wanted to also, Mayor, if I may.
Please, go ahead.
There's you met 4 individuals tonight that have been working on this, doing the great job of
4 ladies.
Yes. 4 ladies, actually 5, but Stacy has also been involved. She's this team has been very dedicated, but we also have a large number of other staff from across the organization who've been deeply involved in this and working on this to make sure that they address different aspects of it. As any other new system, there may be glitches along the way that we need to work through, and we will work through those. But we wanted to make sure that you understood that not only the investment is being made, that a tremendous amount of work is going behind the scenes to bring us to 21st century. And I'm very optimistic and I'm very upbeat about what our investment and the payoff that we will have in the next in the next 6 months, I would say. So thank you and great job, team, for the work, for a job well done.
Well, and we should congratulate them for having actually taught a class in this. This is, a class for other potential users. This is not just good for us, but think what an asset we're providing to the company, the provider company, to help sell their project. This is incredible. They should get a commission for doing that.
Thank you.
Ditto. Thank you, everyone. If there aren't any more comments, we'll move on to item 13, request for future agenda items. Anybody got some burning new ideas?
I just have one, Donald.
Okay.
just ask Cyrus and Micah to let us know what they think about us taking a position on the Delta Tunnel so that I can report that back to LAFCO.
That'll be taken under advisement. With that, we'll move on to item 14. And tonight we'll be adjourning in the memory of Jed McClatchy and Jack Carlson. Hopefully I'm reading my notes right.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll stand adjourned at 7:57. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.